for better or
but also the bizarre human side of something that's so rare.
Very quickly, Scott, what are you going to be looking for specifically today?
I'm going to be looking for the corona. I've studied the corona and looked at spacecraft images, but this will be an amazing time to just see it with the naked eye, and everyone's going to be able to do this.
Speaking of the naked eye, David, I just want to alert viewers who are watching, don't look directly. They need these special glasses, right? Tell our viewers why they need this.
The sun emits, as I said, all forms of radiation, and even though we wouldn't feel the infrared or the ultraviolet, if we stare at the sun, they'll burn our retina right away. And so we need these kinds of glasses that are specially formulated to keep out those rays.
Especially children.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody who's outside in that totality range needs to wear these, but even if you're not necessarily in the totality.
If you're not in totality, you definitely need them because at any point, the surface brightness of the sun is just so great that even a small fraction of that surface being visible, and if you stare at it, you will be damaged.
And it'll be damaged for the rest of your life.
Unfortunately so.
Because we've spoken to individuals who are 15, 16 years old. They looked up and they've got some problems the rest of their lives. We're standing by. I want to show our viewers some live pictures coming in right now from Big Summit Prairie, Oregon right now. On the left, they're going to be experiencing totality in roughly about 20 minutes or so. On the right, take a look at this. We'll put it up on the screen. Blackwell, Missouri, with totality in about an hour from now. I want to quickly go back to CNN's Chad Myers to set the scene. For our viewers here in the United States, Chad, and around the world who are just tuning in, set the scene for us, what we're about to see over the next hour or two.
A swath 70 miles wide, 3,000 miles long will go across the Earth, the shadow of the moon. And people have asked me now for days, how on earth does this thing start in Oregon and end in South Carolina? Well, here's how it sets up. It's three-dimensional. Here's where we are right now. The shadow of the moon is way off to the west. The sun's going to get higher. The moon's going to get higher. Then all of a sudden, in about an hour, you're going to be right where you said, right in Missouri. An hour from then, the sun and the moon are going to line up like this, and that will be all the way across the East Coast. So that's how this goes the wrong way. In fact, it is the right way. It's how they're supposed to go. But let me take you to one more thing because it's important about these glasses, Wolf. Brought myself a little flashlight. See that? It works. Now, I brought myself one of my broken, expensive glasses because only expensive glasses break. And I'm going to put it through it, and you can still see through my polarized lens. You can still see that. Now, I take this same flashlight, and I put it on this, and there's nothing coming out. 99.97% of everything blocked by this lens, not even close to this one. Sunglasses do not work.
You know, it's true, because if I, Chad, put on these glasses right now, you know what I see?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
Total darkness, and that's what you need at this point in order to protect your eyesight. Just trying to underscore how significant this is, because there could be, especially kids looking up inadvertently, there could be permanent damage.
Sure, and you know, people ask me, is this sun today worse than any other day? Is there more radiation? No, there isn't. It's the same sun. You shouldn't look at the sun any day, and you don't. When you get it, you see it, and you go, oh, you can see spots in your eyes. But today, people are wanting to look at it to see this crescent, and you absolutely can't do it. It's as bad or worse than looking at it on a normal day. That's just a big round globe. You'll just have different spots, and you pretend that you can look at it longer. You should look at it 0 seconds today. Make the box, do whatever, or just watch it on TV because we have the best pictures.
We certainly do. We're going to have extensive live coverage coming up here on CNN, of course. Chad, don't go too far away. David Dvorkin, you're still with us, senior curator at Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. And historically, this is what, the first time in 99 years we've seen this type of eclipse here in the United States.
Well, what's really historic is that it's our eclipse alone. North America is the only landmass that this eclipse path goes over. Everything else is water.
And they've been able to predict this for a long time. Absolutely. And predict future eclipses down the road.
Absolutely. We've been able to predict eclipses with greater and greater and greater accuracy over the past centuries.
Let me bring in Chris Hadfield. You're in Brisbane, Australia right now. You're an astronaut. Astronauts, they will be watching this very, very closely as well. Tell our viewers why.
Yeah, there are 6 people up on the space station, including Peggy Whitson, who's the all-time record holder for an American in space. And they're going to cross the part of the world where the shadow is down here on the surface a couple times as it's crossing across the US. And that is such a rare event, such a cool thing to see, to have the sun on one side, somehow the moon shadow in the way, and putting a very strange apparition onto the surface of the world. No, out of the 7.5 billion of us, there's only 6 that are getting that view, that rare perspective of the whole world and the shadow of the moon on it. So we'll be looking forward to the pictures that Peggy and the folks up there take also.
You know, we certainly will. I want to show our viewers some live pictures coming in from Newport, Oregon right now, the beach over there. Take a look at this. This eclipse is moving closer and closer. Miguel Marquez, you're on the scene for us in Oregon over there. Set the scene.
This is absolutely incredible, Wolf. It's getting darker here. It's getting cooler here, several degrees cooler, and we have this perfect sort of Cheshire cat grin right now. We're about maybe 7 minutes away from totality here in Salem, Oregon. You can feel sort of the energy and the excitement that people have here. I want to introduce you to somebody over here. These guys have come from a very long way away. All the way from Cork, Ireland is their astronomy club. 36 members of their astronomy club. Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot. You have to take your glasses off. Bill, stand up here if you would. What is your last name?
Bill O'Mara.
And you're from Cork?
Cork in Ireland, yeah.
Why come all this way? This is your group here. You guys have created sort of a sun circle here. Why come all this way?
Well, we love coming to your wonderful university here, and we've come, of course, to see a total eclipse. So,
how many eclipses have you seen?
This is my first total eclipse.
Really?
Yes.
But you're you're the president of the astronomy club. I'm amazed by that. Why this one's so important?
Yeah, this one is so important because it was accessible and readily so to us. We only had to travel 5,000 miles.
Said with typical Irish understatement. We'll have a great time. How far off do you think we are right now?
From totality?
From totality.
I would say we're about maybe 10 minutes. Yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes. They just announced 13, but you think 10 minutes we're off? Very, very excited crowd out here. The other interesting thing about this particular path, it only hits the U.S. The last time that happened, 1257, about 200 years before Christopher Columbus was even born. Wolf?
Yeah, it's a lot of time that we've waited for this moment right now. David, you see what's going on. You see 99 years since the eclipse, a total eclipse, has gone all across the United States.
That's right.
And what happened the last time there was a total eclipse, but not all across the United States?
There have been a good number of them. I saw a really great one in March 1970. It came up the East Coast and went right across Nantucket Island. And that was my first total eclipse.
What was that like?
It was absolutely fabulous. I was part of a Yale University Observatory eclipse expedition and beach party. And we had a fantastic time. We took time-lapse pictures of the sun and the moon going across it. We watched the seagulls sort of nest after a while. And the whole place sort of took on a quietness after. But what really got me more than anything else was the 360-degree twilight.
Tell us about that.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. It was for me, it was a golden twilight all the way around.
Because you would turn yourself around to see it.
Right. I had a special job. I had to stand at the top of a telescope dome and remove a filter exactly at the point of totality. But that also gave me a view all the way around, and I was able to see this incredible totality. But what it was capped by right at the top was this crown of light. And it was this beautiful ethereal crown of light, which of course was the sun's corona, its outer atmosphere. And I tell you, I was useless for at least a minute. But luckily, I didn't have to do anything for at least 4 minutes. And I just sat there and I just drank it all in.
It's a moment you never forget, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely.
How
not.
many eclipses have you seen?
I've seen 2.
Yeah.
Since I met the woman who was going to be my wife at the first one, I was a little saying, well, maybe we shouldn't go to another one. But after 36 years, what the hell? And so we went to Libya, and in the 2006 eclipse, I'm sorry, it was absolutely fabulous, and we're still married.
Scott Hawley, what about you? You've seen, I assume you've seen an eclipse before. Tell us about it.
I've only seen a partial eclipse. Back in 1984, there was a partial eclipse that came up the eastern seaboard of the United States, and I was in 6th grade. This will be my first total eclipse. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, we have 8 minutes, we're now told, until the first total eclipse. You will see it here on CNN to all of our viewers. Chris Hatfield, what about you? You've seen eclipses before?
I've only seen a partial before, Wolf, and I remember standing and holding one of the little reflectors so I didn't have to look at it directly. I didn't have the super dark glasses at the time, but I found it really fascinating to have this little projection of the round sun slowly being eaten away by the shadow of the moon. It happens slowly enough that you have time to think and puzzle about what's really going on in the solar system and the rareness of the event. And that, to me, was the best part. As a kid, seeing that, it kind of opened up my thoughts to what I might be able to do in my life. Maybe a chance to pursue some things that seemed impossible. It kind of gave me a little window on the world and the moon and the sun that I'd never really put together before.
Yeah, it's a spiritual moment for so many people as well. Chad Myers, you're an expert in this area, and we know that humans are going to be watching this total eclipse, but what about the impact on animals?
Yeah, that is a great question, because the nocturnal animals actually will see it getting dark and go, hey, wait, what happened? That was only a 6-hour day. And they'll get up and they'll start to move around, and then 3 minutes later, it'll start to get light again, and then they go back in their hole or wherever they live. So yes, it does affect animals as much or more than humans because they are more attuned to the beat of the world. Also, bees and birds will get to this tune as well, and the bees will start to go back to their hives, birds will go back to their nests, and then all of a sudden it'll be bright again. Here's how it works. Well, I want to tell you that with the sun and the moon, they always make shadows. The Earth makes a shadow, Mars makes a shadow, Mercury makes a shadow, and so do airplanes. Sometimes you're on the ground, an airplane flies over you, you see that shadow. This is the big shadow of the day because it comes off the moon, which is 400 times closer than the sun. Even though it's 400 times smaller, that math works out. It almost appears to be the exact same size, depending on how close the moon and the sun are away. Now, it's an oval, kind of almost an egg-shaped rotation around the Earth. It isn't always this close. Because it is this close this time, there will be a complete and not annular. It won't be a big ring around the moon. It will actually be completely covering the sun, and so therefore we go with the word total eclipse. Wolf.
Any advice for the folks who are worried about their pets, dogs, cats, other animals?
My dog is afraid if I drop a fork on the ground. And so I can imagine that other animals will be some skittish as well. If they are outside, they need to be tied up just for this brief little time until it all goes away, either inside or tied up. You know, we always want them inside and not tied up anyway. But the idea is so that they don't run away. You hear people losing animals all the time over fireworks. During the 4th of July, they get scared. Well, animals, your pets, especially your domesticated pets, can also get scared as well.
I'm sure they will. All right, stand by. I want to go back to Miguel out in Salem, Oregon right now, only moments away from that total eclipse. Set the scene once again for us, Miguel.
It's unlike, well, this gentleman, what is your name?
Chris Ross.
He's just walked up to me, and we just started chatting about what it's like out here. One, it's gotten cool out here, noticeably cool. The light is this sort of bizarre gray color.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind right now?
That it's unreal. It's like different. It's different than Twilight. Everything looks different. It's a little freaky in a way, isn't it? But I mean, you totally understand it, but it's like you feel like there's something really special in the air.
Where have you come from? Why here?
I live here.
You live here?
Yeah. My wife works here on campus, so we're Campus Heights.
I want to show you what this looks like right now in our sun spotter. Look at this. It's like a little tiny sliver, like a nail basically left of the sun.
That's how much light we're getting.
So what did they just announce? 3 minutes to totality here? So you can hear the people, they start to applaud when they hear that. I want to give you a sense of what's happening here. Everybody's starting to stand up, getting excited to watch this, staring up at the sun. Something you wouldn't normally do, staring at the sun. We have binoculars that we are using. Okay, this is actually very, very cool. We have binoculars that we use that have filters, solar filters on them, so you get a pretty sharp and crisp image of the sun, and it is just a tiny, tiny sliver right now. As soon as it goes full totality, and we'll have about 2.5 minutes of totality here in Salem, as soon as it goes full totality, you can actually take your glasses off, or you can look directly at the sun, and you can see that sort of corona effect. Let's come back over here to the solar. Can I hop in here real quick? 2 minutes to totality. 2 minutes. You can see just how close it is here on this solar spotter. And then, if you would, Jordan, look out at the crowd here as they are looking up. I mean, this light is incredible. The coolness is incredible. While the sky is still blue, it's like there's a gray haze hanging over the sky right now. It's like twilight in a bizarre sort of movie or something. And you're starting to see on the very corner of the sun, sort of, it looks like canyons or sort of a rough edge. And that is probably the beginnings of what they call the Bailey beads, where the sun starts to shine through the canyons and the mountains of the moon. So you're actually seeing 1 minute, they've just announced to totality. The energy is palpable. It's pretty exciting. Wow.
These are live pictures, Miguel, we're showing our viewers right now, live pictures of this total eclipse in Oregon. This is from Lincoln City, Oregon right now. You can see how the moon is really blocking the sun. David Dvorkin of the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. When you see this, what goes through your mind?
Wow. That's the first word that goes through. But really, the prominences, there's 3 beautiful prominences there in the upper right, and you can see bits of the inner corona. It's really fantastic. Really
incredible.
It takes me back to 2006, even back to 1970.
Whoa!
But this is really good because those are beautiful prominences. Those are explosions on the limb of the sun.
And it will last that total eclipse for about 2.5 minutes over there in Oregon.
That's right. And as it moves, as the moon moves across, you'll see subtle changes in the structure of the corona. That's sort of with the light passing through different parts of the valleys of the moon in the profile. But it's really those 3 incredible chromas. Oh my God! Look at that. Let
me go back to Miguel. Miguel, it's about to hit completely where you are, right?
Absolutely incredible. Oh my God. Look at the phones trying to take pictures of this thing. We are in full totality now. You can see these streams coming off of the moon. Jordan, if you would look up at the sky, this is absolutely incredible to see for myself. We're about a minute through totality. This crowd just erupted when it went total. You can see the planes, you can see stars in the sky. This is an unbelievable experience. You can see the planes as they're crossing right in front like it's night. The temperature has dropped between maybe 5 and 10 degrees. Wait. This is absolutely amazing to witness. I've never seen anything like this.
David, David Dvorkin, go ahead. Explain what we're seeing right now.
Well, we're looking at a number of images from the beginning and the end of totality, and we are seeing the crest of the sun coming back here on the right-hand side, and the left-hand side, as they're zooming in, we still see full totality with the corona easily visible. That's
so
beautiful.
The sun is beginning to come through in Lincoln City, Oregon, but in Salem, it's total over there.
That's right.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. As it passed totality, this crowd just erupted. That diamond sort of light just glinting off the side of the moon. Absolutely brilliant. And now it's starting to get light again here. This is the weirdest light I have ever seen. Excuse me. So what was it like?
It was amazing, unbelievable, and it got dark and cool, and the stars were starting to come out, and I don't know, it was just amazing.
How do you describe this quality of light we're experiencing right now?
Almost like the atmosphere just makes you feel light and happy. I don't know, it's just amazing.
It's a completely different feeling. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I don't. You can't look at it now without wearing your shades, your special solar shades. But just an incredible experience here. The crowd here clearly got everything it wanted. You could literally see that corona and those streams coming off of the sun as the moon passed in front of it. Incredible. Wolf?
So it's 10:20 a.m. over there on the Pacific time where you are, Miguel. During that 2.5-minute period, it got very dark there, right?
It got very dark. You could see planes flying in the sky like you would see at night, them blinking along. You could see stars out. I was listening for crickets, but the crowd was cheering too much to hear crickets. But clearly it was a weird, very strange, weird moment. Even now, the quality of light is very, very strange out here. It's like somebody's taken a gray a shield or something and just sort of hung it over the sky, because it just feels very, very gray and sort of odd out here still. That time of totality, it also got very cold, or cooler, about between maybe 5 and 10 degrees cooler out here. Incredible how much just that little bit of sunshine going away like that quickly affected the temperature and sort of affected everybody here. Wolf?
And during that 2.5-minute period, Miguel, you could also see some other stars.
Oh yeah, you could see. I don't know if they were. I'm not as good an astronomer. I don't know if you could see planets or stars, but you could definitely see several sort of bright objects in the sky. They may have been planets. I know that some of the planets you can see apparently when it goes full corona, but you could literally see several stars in the sky. I mean, the planes you could see everywhere. It was literally day turning into night. As cliche as that sounds, it was really incredible. You can see why 1,000, 2,000 years ago, when this would happen, people might think, oh, the gods may not like us. Today, the weather gods are certainly shining on us, and it was a perfect day here in Oregon.
I'm glad there were no clouds that would disturb what all of you were experiencing. David, you were saying that what they saw, other planets.
Oh yeah, Venus was just west of the sun, very prominent, and certainly the brighter stars. You can see, it takes a while for your eyes to get totally dark adapted, but in that minute or two, you can get dark adapted enough to see dozens of stars and even sense their colors, their differences in color. But it was Venus that I'm sure they saw that was just west of the sun, in front of the sun.
We were watching it, you and me, on this big screen TV. It's one thing to see it on a TV. I assume it's a totally different thing to see it in person.
I'm afraid so, but it took me back. It took me back. Once you see one, it's indelible. It's always there. I mean, it was 30 or 40-something years ago I saw my first eclipse, and it's still, I can remember that moment of turning my head skyward at totality and just experiencing a surreal but permanent, indelible impression.
Chris Hadfield, you're a former commander of the International Space Station and astronaut. Just watching it, as we all were, what was it like for you to see that total eclipse?
It's just really cool, Wolf, to think that the United States is being followed by a moon shadow right now. It's racing across at 2,000 miles an hour across the country. And high up in the air, there are 2 NASA pilots and 2 NASA engineers in a WB-57. They're going to chase it, try and keep up with that high-speed moving shadow and take pictures, not just in visible light, but with other type of sensors to get as much information as possible, chasing that rare ethereal racing shadow across the country. It's an amazing moment. Physically beautiful, but scientifically fascinating.
And you think that there will be some important science, potentially, some lessons that we will learn from this experience?
Oh, yeah, to try and understand the basic solar physics, to try the field that we're seeing when the moon is blocking the sun is the ionized gas, the plasma field around the sun. That's kind of the whole key idea of how we're maybe generate power in the future with fusion reactors to try and understand how does plasma actually behave? How does the sun do that? How does it create fusion and generate all of that power? And this gives us like a window of insight that we can't get any other way, especially right close to the surface. Pretty interesting scientific day.
Yeah, very interesting. And Scott Hawley, you're a professor of physics. What was it like for you to experience, at least from the TV screen, that total eclipse?
Oh, that was so beautiful. That was incredible to be able to see the prominences and see the corona come out like that. That was incredible. And here at the studio, I checked to make sure that I hadn't screwed up the time somehow and was stuck inside. But yeah, we've got another hour here in Nashville, thankfully, so we'll get to see that. That was incredible.
It certainly was. And on the left, David, I just want to point out, though, we're seeing it's leaving Oregon right now, moving across the country, heading next towards Idaho. You see what's happening in Haley, Idaho right now. And that whole path across the United States is going to be amazing.
That's right. At every single point on the path, they're going to experience what they experienced in Oregon. And that was going through my mind. It was just an amazing realization to see so many people are going to get a chance to see this incredible apparition.
And that path is 70 miles wide.
Approximately, yeah.
Approximately. Well, let's say you're 80 miles away from it or 90. You'll still experience a lot of it.
Well, you certainly get close enough to maybe getting that bead effect, but not the full totality, not the corona. That you only get in totality.
Because here, where we are in Washington, D.C., we're going to experience about 80% of that eclipse. So what will that be like?
Well, there may be some perceptible change in the color of the sky. Probably not, because the air is so humid today that we wouldn't, sense any kind of temperature change. But just being able to see it and enjoy it, I think, is a tremendous triumph.
But even if you're outside that 100% totality, you still have to take the precautions with the special glasses.
Oh, especially.
Yeah.
Especially. The moment of totality is the only time you can take your glasses off. Any other point, when you're at partial phase, you must use those glasses.
That's very important, especially young kids are going to be going outside.
Absolutely.
And their teachers, their parents got to tell them, be careful, don't look up at the sky.
Right, and as one of our educators says, when you put those glasses on, put them on looking down, and then look up. And then when you are finished looking up, look down, and then only then take the glasses off.
These glasses, a lot of people have gotten them, but apparently there's some that are sort of fake and they're not really effective, right?
They're not as efficient in blocking the light, and it's hard to tell which is which, and you just can't test it with your eyes. But yes, older style glasses like this sometimes let in a little bit too much infrared, a little bit too much ultraviolet. And then there might be ones that are totally bogus. I hope not.
I think there are. Unfortunately, we've been seeing some of those reports.
I'm really sorry
and that's
to hear
a very
about
dangerous
that.
situation.
Absolutely.
Because that could really screw up your eyes for a long time. We've interviewed people who did observe an eclipse. They didn't have the right glasses. They were 16, 17 years old. And then 40, 50 years later, they still have little spots.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel it. You don't feel the burn.
For a while.
No, you don't until it's too late.
Yeah, that's why you got to be really careful as this total eclipse is going across the United States. Just saw it in Oregon, now moving towards Idaho, going to be heading towards Missouri, all the way down to South Carolina. This is going to be a wonderful 2-hour experience for so many people. So, Chad, for viewers here in the United States and around the world who are just watching, as we're watching right now, walk us through what's happening right now and what is about to happen.
NASA.gov has a great little program you can take a look at right here, moving right over the western edge of Idaho. But the beginning of the new solar eclipse for Nebraska is now coming almost to Omaha, into Des Moines. It is leaving now the other side there on the Pacific Ocean, getting larger and larger. The sun now coming back. You can follow this black dot all the way across the country, all the way to Charleston. I suspect we'll have some rain delays or rain problems across parts of Kansas, maybe into parts of Nebraska. Probably a couple of showers here across parts of the Carolinas, but the rest of the country, Wolf, is really going to be good. I mean, we can, on a summer day, we can get 50 or 60% cloud coverage, and we're just not seeing that. This is what we have right now. This is the blue stripe. It'll be north of Boise, and then right through Casper, Wyoming. And finally here's the cloud cover and the showers I'm talking about. We sent Stephanie Elam to St. Joseph, Missouri. Stephanie, I'm sorry about that. You are getting the cloud cover right now. There's still a chance for it to break up, but that's where we're kind of covering things up. St. Joe over to about Marysville. South of St. Louis, there's traffic on the road getting out of St. Louis, trying to get to Totality here, and then also back over to Nashville, completely in the clear. Lots of clear skies and sunshine for the next 4 to 5 hours, all the way to Knoxville in great shape. To the north of Athens, Georgia, where they're having a party at Sanford Stadium. The students are sitting in there with their glasses on. They'll get about 98%, but still kind of a cool little party going on there. And then all the way across here to just about the Isle of Palms, where we have more reporters waiting in the wings for that shadow to get there.
We have reporters all across this path, all across the United States. Chad, a lot of commercial aircraft, a lot of planes are in the sky right now. How, if at all, does this total eclipse, the path moving across the United States, affect them?
Well, it doesn't affect them, but they're not going to keep up, because even I was coming back from Vegas on Saturday. We got a ground speed of about 575 miles per hour. You're going to have to go 3 times faster than that to keep up with the shadow. So maybe a brief encounter with the shadow. It'll get dark. You'll be able to see kind of the wings there in the dark and the lights on the end of the wings shining like they do at night. But other than that, no real effect. Not going to be in that shadow long enough. You get one plane going one way at 500 miles an hour. You get the shadow going the other way at 1,500. You're not going to be in that shadow for very long, Wolf.
Yeah, David, you wanted to add?
Yeah, but just the slightest increase in the amount of time that you can see that corona. The Smithsonian has a crew on a jet plane going through the totality that is going to increase their ability to see the total corona for about a minute or two. It'll see it maybe for a total of 4 minutes. And that'll give them so much more data than if they were just sitting on the ground, that it will be a terrific increase in our understanding of the processes that are going on just at the boundary of the visible surface of the sun and the inner atmosphere and the corona of the sun. And it's right there where we need to know so much more about how energy is transmitted. And during those 4 minutes, that'll teach us a lot.
You're looking at the eclipse. These are live pictures coming in from Haley, Idaho right now. It's 11:32 a.m. Mountain Time. We're watching this very closely. Stephanie Elam, you're in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's moving towards you. I assume where you are, folks are getting pretty excited.
They would be, Wolf. They would be. Right now, what we've got is some rain. And that's really not what we want, because we really can't see. We can't see right now. This fine gentleman from Australia just walked over and brought an umbrella to help me out, because I was just sitting here getting drenched. Are you sad about choosing to come to St. Joseph, Missouri?
Absolutely not. We've had a fabulous time in the state. We've done a few astronomy trips here. We're just having a great time. It's clouds. Nothing you can do about it.
But do you think you're going to get anything? I mean, we still have some time.
We have some time. Well, you never know. I've been to 3 before. They've been cloudy, fine. You never know what happens. So it's just, we just
Okay,
go
so
on.
you've been to 3 other...
Yes.
Are they all different?
All different.
Okay, so it's worth it for you.
Absolutely.
See, for all those people who may be watching in Missouri or somewhere else in this 70-mile swath of land, thank you, kind sir, for your umbrella.
It's a pleasure.
This could still be really cool, all right? And what everyone says is that the lighting still changes, and to look to the sides and to look around at the environment around you. The temperature should still change. We still have things that we can look for, even if Miguel has like the coolest stuff ever, Wolf, over there on the coast. That's totally fine. We are going to sit here. We still have about half an hour to go before we reach totality here, and hopefully it'll still be good. People here are still excited to be here, even though now you see people are now covered up completely in their rain ponchos. This lady over here has a stool over her camera. She's also from Australia, has made the trek. She's protecting her camera gear there. Plastic bags, ponchos, rain boots. You know, this is how we are eclipsing here in Missouri right now, Wolf. So hopefully it'll get a little bit better as we get closer to totality here.
You still have a half an hour, and we can all hope that it does clear and that rain goes away, the clouds go away. Let's hope the next half hour. And the folks are taking it in good spirit. You know, David, it's got to be disappointing. You travel all the way from Australia to the United States to watch this historic moment, a total eclipse of the sun, and all of a sudden the clouds and the rain come in.
But there's some wonderful stories that turn them almost into spiritual journeys that are just so emotionally encapsulating of the effort, the fascination that even if there was the clouds, there was still that effort, a combined effort to see something truly spectacular. And I know it sounds funny, almost counterintuitive, but I know that some people, when they have traveled so far but they've not seen it, they feel it is an absolute imperative to try again. And that gives hope, that gives meaning to life.
Well, Chad, you're a weather guy. What's the weather like as this total eclipse moves across the United States from Oregon to Idaho, Missouri, and it's heading your way? It's heading towards South Carolina. Chad, I want you to stand by for a moment. We're going to get that forecast from you to see what the weather is going to be like. Oh, there you are, Chad. So what's it going to be like, the weather, as it moves toward you?
Well, really, we couldn't have put Stephanie in any worse of a position, or that man from Australia, because that's really the only place in totality where we don't have any visibility whatsoever. We'll move you around here, go back out to the west. This is where it really is good. All the way from Casper, Wyoming, right through Yellowstone National Park, Grand Teton Forest. That's where it's perfect. Then you get into the plains where these lingering storms from last night are still around. And so Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha is seeing the cloud cover right now. But remember this, we talked about this about an hour ago, Wolf. When the clouds move away, and they can, when the sun gets blocked, the temperatures go down. Now, these clouds are here because the temperatures have gone up. These are heat of the day kind of cumulus clouds. If the temperature goes down quick enough, the clouds can actually go away, and you can have the brief glimpse of the sun, a brief glimpse of the eclipse, even with the rainfall still coming in there. So we're still keeping our fingers crossed for Stephanie. Back down toward Nashville, perfect. Knoxville, again, perfect. All the way through the Great Smoky Mountains, perfect. And then into Charleston, where there is still some rain showers coming in now. We're hoping for Charleston to get a sea breeze. Sea breeze is when you take that wind from the ocean and you push the clouds inward. Now, I'm sorry if you're 40 miles inland, because you'll get cloudy, but Charleston could still break out. So could Isle of Palms and all the way down to almost Savannah, Georgia. Wolf.
And it's going to take another hour or two for this total eclipse to move all across the country, right, Chad?
Absolutely right. Well, we won't even get out of the partial eclipse. You know, we talk about that moment of totality and how that's where it's dark. It's 2.5 minutes of nirvana right there. But the rest of it, it's the lead up. It's the journey to get there, and then the journey on the way out when the sun comes back out. It all kind of, you know, you get to Disneyland, and that's where you try to get to. But if you had a good enough trip, getting to Disneyland may just be part of the story. It's the lead up. It's the anticipation. It's the crowd cheering. When I was listening to Miguel Marquez's shot from Salem, and the crowd behind him was, they were roaring as this was getting closer and closer and closer. It was like you were like a football game, not like you were at some kind of solar eclipse. And I guess maybe football games happen all the time. Solar eclipses don't.
This one, this moving all across the United States, first time since 1918, 99 years. Folks have been waiting for this moment. You know, Chris Hatfield, I just want to get your thoughts on why it is so powerful, so emotional, so spiritual for folks who actually see it.
Well, you know, through history, Wolf, we've named the things in the sky with a sense of wonder. We named the planets after the gods from thousands of years ago. When those first eclipses happened, it was a terrifying, unbelievable, unpredictable event. Our gods somehow angry at us. As the science has explained what's going on, it becomes at least a little more palatable within us intellectually. But that same fundamental sense of wonder is there. And the crew of the space station right now is just south of Australia. But it's only going to take them about a half hour to be back over the United States, to come across the Pacific. And they will then have a chance, as they arc up and across the northern states, to look for that shadow crossing across. The Kentucky and Tennessee have the longest period of totality. That's where the shadow slows down the most. So they'll get over 2.5 minutes of totality. And around that time is when the 6 people up on the space station, they'll be taking pictures like crazy, but they'll be feeling that same sense of ancient wonder that that eclipses have instilled in all of us forever.
Those 6 astronauts, Chad, they will have a totally unique vantage point view of this eclipse as it moves across the United States. And as you've been saying, and saying very, very important that they're going to be able to glean important scientific information from this. But once again, explain to our viewers what kind of scientific information, the best scientific information, will they be able to obtain?
It's looking at the corona, Wolf. It's looking when you get totality. It's the view you can't get any other time. Yes, you can put a disk in the way of the sun and get a man-made partial eclipse and try to get a reading from that. But when you take a body and not just a piece of plastic, and you don't block it with a piece of plastic in front of a telescope, you block it with a body of rock way out there in space, you get a much clearer view. The edges are much clearer, although, of course, there are the craters on the moon. The edges of that corona, the prominences that we saw, they were amazing. There were three of them, one to the north, one to the northeast, and one to the east itself, if you're looking at it from northeast to south. But the prominences that we could see there, these explosions from the sun, these coronal mass ejections, we might even get to see one if there's something small that puffs out here. These are the things that can affect the world in the future, and the more we know about them, the more we can protect the world from electromagnetic storms, from brownouts, from blackouts, because of this power that's coming from the sun itself. The more we know, the better we can prepare. The better we can prepare, we can do and cause less damage to our infrastructure when it happens. There is going to be a coronal mass ejection that flies to the Earth at some point in time, and probably in my lifetime and yours too. And that is going to affect the Earth. A lot of times they go one way because it's three-dimensional, could go back behind the sun. But if one shoots right at the world, all of a sudden there's going to be this charged of the world, not only northern lights, but also our power grids get charged, our computers get charged, and things go down and things go crash and things go bump in the night. And there can be billions of dollars in damage that we could maybe alleviate if we know more about how to get our systems down, how quickly it moves, what frequency things are coming in, what speed they're coming in. There's just so much that the world depends on that cell phone of yours. You know, the cell phone could launch the Atlas V rocket of the years past because it's so technically advanced. And now all that technology is at some point going to come tumbling down if we get too much electromagnetic from the sun.
Chad, take a look at this on the right part of the screen. Casper, Wyoming. David, we're about to have a total eclipse there. You see the camera moving a bit, but explain what we're about to see in Casper, Wyoming right now, as opposed to Haley, Idaho.
Well, in Haley, Idaho, the eclipse seems to be getting larger because it's after totality. But in Casper, Wyoming, it's just before, and it's sort of, if you think of the crescent there as a smile, the smile is getting narrower and narrower, and amazing. At this point, it's gone.
There it is, total eclipse.
And if you take
Casper, Wyoming.
And at this point, if they take the filters off the camera, they will see the corona.
You see it. Oh, there it is.
Go.
Yeah. So explain why that corona now has appeared.
The corona is very, very faint relative to the rest of the sun. And so even though it's always there, we can't see it because we're blinded by sunlight. And that would be true on the ground, true in space, true anywhere. But once that corona is cut off by that occulting disk, the moon that's 250,000 miles away, as was correctly pointed out there, the very sharp limb between the moon's limb there and the sun being exactly the same size lets us only see the faint light that is in the outer atmosphere of the sun. And that is what we are seeing now. The key of a total solar eclipse is that we can see the whole corona. In artificial eclipses and others, we only see the outer corona. But here we can see the inner corona where the really important processes are taking place.
And this total eclipse will last there in Casper, Wyoming, about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
That's right.
And then slowly, all of a sudden, the sun will reappear.
That's exactly right. And it'll reappear really quickly in that what's called a Bailey's bead. That's the bright portion of the sun coming back. And even the contrast is so great that it just overpowers the corona, and that's all you see is sort of like a diamond ring effect, it's called.
So if you're on the ground now in Casper, Wyoming, it's dark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You might get confused and think it's nighttime.
Well, I mean, if I was a burrowing creature, I'd start looking for saying, you know, where am I supposed to be going now?
The animals will get confused out there. They're wondering what's going on. And I guess we could reassure the animals this is the first time a total eclipse path like this has gone across the United States in 99 years.
Exactly.
Since 1918.
That's
the
right.
last. There have been other total eclipses, but not completely across the United States.
That's exactly right.
So this is a moment we're watching this total eclipse. This is in Casper, Wyoming. Shortly, and we'll keep this picture up for our viewers. All of a sudden, tell our viewers what to anticipate.
Well, at this point, with the sun just now coming back, there it goes. That's the bead. There's the diamond ring effect. And that, of course, is overexposing. You got to put the filter back on. That's right.
Yeah.
They're doing it right.
So they're doing the filter.
Yep. Whoops. Got to get that filter on. Yeah. I hope they didn't burn off some pixels in the camera.
Yeah, that sunlight is very, very
Absolutely
intense.
right.
You got to be really careful. You have to have a lot of filters. And,
there we go.
And so here it comes. All of a sudden, the sun will come back out.
That's right. And people all across the eclipse path from west to east are seeing this in sequence. It's just an incredible thing to realize that so millions of people are able to see this. When we were in Libya, we were this was in 2006, the desert was empty, except for about 1,500 crazy people yelling and screaming at the top of their heads.
The Libyan government at the time of Muammar Gaddafi allowed you in?
They allowed an Italian cruise ship in, and we were on a cruise, part of that was sponsored and directed by a magazine called Sky and Telescope. But it was Italian cruise crew.
Well, let me get Chris Hatfield to weigh in as well. What did you think, Chris?
It's just so magnificent to see something we haven't talked about, Wolf, and that is just as the sun is disappearing behind the moon, and then just as it's reappearing, as the first hint of that light is coming down, the light can get sort of bent a little bit through the atmosphere, sort of like how stars twinkle. And if you look under just the right conditions, you can see these big waving bands of light on the ground. Not always, but if you're in the right place, you can see those like snakes of light slithering across the ground. And I'm really curious to see if any of the people across the country got the right combination of everything, so they got to see that extremely rare and bizarre effect from a solar eclipse.
Yeah, you saw that total eclipse in Casper, Wyoming. Moving now closer towards Nebraska, Beatrice, Nebraska. We got some live pictures coming in from there as well. We have a lot more of our special coverage coming up. We need to take a quick break. Unfortunately, Beatrice, Nebraska looks sort of cloudy right now, but we've got cameras all over the country as this total eclipse moves across the country from Oregon to Idaho to Nebraska, moving towards South Carolina. Our special coverage continues right after this quick break.
Coverage of the eclipse is proudly presented by Volvo and the all-new XC60. Go to racingthesun.com to get more info about the most innovative way to view this historic eclipse.
Feels good to be back.
We just faked our own deaths, moved to a new town, and our credit will be as good as new.
We're checking Credit Karma.
Fine, but once we see how bad our credit is, we fake our own deaths.
Deal. Oh, not as bad as I thought.
Maybe there's hope for us yet.
Credit Karma. Get knowing.
You know what I'm thinking? Why not use it? I mean, we're talking about $6 trillion here. That's a whole lot of cash out there people are just sitting on. Many older Americans are in a tough spot right now. They just don't have enough savings to get by. It's their biggest concern. They could be our family, our friends. And then there's that $6 trillion. That's the amount retired homeowners have already paid into their homes. it comes down to an average of more than $200,000 per senior household. So, why not use a reverse mortgage loan to access that equity?
Find out more. Call us today to receive a free information kit complete with a DVD presented by Tom Selleck. The kit will help you understand more about a reverse mortgage, decide if it's right for you, and the simple ways you need to qualify. Call 1-800-265-5152.
The reverse mortgage loan from AAG uses your built-up home equity to give you cash now and when you need it in the future. Pay it back when it works for you or in one lump sum when you leave the home.
Call now for a free, no-obligation information kit to find out how a reverse mortgage loan can pay for living expenses, medical bills, even credit card bills. Call 1-800-265-5152.
I know what you're thinking. Why me? And why AAG? Well, I've done my homework, and I know how dedicated AAG is to helping retirees in a caring, ethical way. I trust them. I think you can too.
If you're 62 or older and own your home, the info kit will show you how to access your home's equity to give you cash when you need it. It'll eliminate those monthly mortgage payments and give you the extra money to renovate the home or pay off bills. Call 1-800-265-5152.
Looking at live pictures coming in right now from Missouri. Blackwell, St. Clair, where in the next few minutes the skies will go completely dark as the moon eclipses the sun. Welcome back to our special coverage. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Also joining us, Chad Myers, Stephanie Elam, Kaylee Hartang, David Dvorkin, Chris Hatfield. Chad, what's happening right now? Where is this total eclipse?
Well, we've just lost totality over Casper, just the north of Cheyenne, back into almost Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Grand Island, Wood River, Aurora, back toward Lincoln, Nebraska, and then finally sliding off into Missouri. So we're right in this area where you're starting to gain more in the way of eclipse here, and we're starting to lose the eclipse back out here. And in the middle part of the country, that's where we're seeing most of the rain showers. This was an absolutely perfect place to be for this eclipse. This, not so perfect because the showers popped up in the warmer part of the morning and they're kind of hanging around. We'll get back to Stephanie in a bit. But if you're in Nashville, where one of the biggest parties in America is going on right now, you have perfect weather there. Knoxville, back on over to about Columbia into South Carolina and eventually into Charleston. This is a beautiful swath of no cloud cover at all right here. And then finally you get toward the shore and that's where the rain is back. And there are so many people right now, Isle of Palms, Charleston, to the north of Savannah, just south of Myrtle Beach, all being disappointed by that rainfall. They have an hour to make that go away. Sometimes the sea breeze can make it go away, Wolf, but we'll have to see. One thing I want you to notice, if you're in Central Park, if you're in Chicago, if you're in Dallas, if you're getting part of the solar eclipse, I want you to look down under a tree, and I want you to notice that everywhere there should be a little circle of sunshine, that should be the sun, there's going to be a crescent shape there. So all these little pinhole cameras we tell you to make, every place there's a pinhole in a tree between the leaves, every one of those little shadows will be in the shape of a crescent. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool indeed. Stephanie, you're there in St. Joseph, Missouri for us right now. There were some weather issues. How's it holding up?
It's not. You actually just have to laugh about it at this point, Wolf, because it is really coming down now. But you know what? Our non-fearful Australian friends, let's go back and talk to them, because you've been to more than one eclipse, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of people who are leaving here now, even though we've still got about 15 minutes to go until we hit totality. Are they being premature?
I think they are, because part of this eclipse experience is experiencing totality, where things go quiet, animals go away, like it goes dark, people get really excited. It's quite an event in itself.
So even though, I mean, it looks like we're not going to get any breakthrough of the clouds. It looks pretty covered up now.
Yeah.
You still think that it's worth being here?
Oh, definitely.
How far in advance did you plan your trip?
Probably about 18 months.
8 or 9 months?
Yeah.
And you
no,
came,
18 months.
18 months, even worse. Okay, so 18 months in advance, you plan to be here in this field in St. Joseph, Missouri, where it's now downpouring. And according to our meteorologist, Chad Myers, he said this is the worst place we could have chosen to be based on the weather, not based on location.
Yeah, well, we when we did the planning, we based it on the statistical weather data, which showed that this is a good place to be this time of the year normally.
So, all right, but you're still are hopeful for a good eclipse.
Well, definitely. We
All right.
won't see it, but we'll feel it and experience it because it'll go dark. So
If that
it'll be great.
optimism
That's
does not
great.
inspire you, Wolf, he is still optimistic, even though we're standing here in the rain and wet pretty much from the top down.
No, he's a very good man indeed. I'm glad he made the trip over from Australia because he's inspiring all of us. Stand by, Kaylee Hartung. Kaylee, you're in South Carolina for us, Isle of Palms. You're getting ready to experience a total eclipse of the sun. What's it like?
We are, Wolf. We are staying dry here, just hearing Chad talk about the rainfall that some parts of the South Carolina coast are experiencing. We are staying dry here for now, though the sun is covered in clouds. If you put on your glasses and look up, you can begin to see the eclipse taking shape. And what we are seeing take shape is this sand sculpture we told you about earlier. 5 hours of work by a local architecture firm, but this sculpture has come together. I want to bring in Norman Jean Page, who has organized the big event that Isle of Palms is experiencing today. Norma, how long has planning for this day been underway?
We've been planning for over a year, not knowing what to anticipate, but it's been a fun ride. We've enjoyed it. We're excited about today. The crowds are probably biggest we've had in a long time, are similar to our 4th of July, but larger. So it's been fun.
We will all be standing by for 2:46 p.m. Eastern, Wolf, when everyone in Isle of Palms is expected to experience that total eclipse.
Yeah, less than an hour or so from now. We'll be watching it every step of the way. Chris Hadfield is still with us. He's joining us from Brisbane, Australia right now. He's a U.S. astronaut, a former commander of the International Space Station. This is a moment that folks like you wait for all the time, Chris, because it is so powerful and indeed, shall I say, emotional.
Well, the entire experience of leaving Earth and flying a spaceship is very technical. It's very difficult, but it's also immensely personal, Wolf. And for the 6 crew up on the space station right now, they are right overhead Fiji, right at this very moment, racing across the Pacific. And I know that all 12 of their eyes, all 6 of them, have their eyes staring straight ahead in order to be able to see as this shadow is crossing across the U.S. They'll make landfall in about 15 or 20 minutes, and they will have every camera they can get, every sensor they can have, so they can get as much science out of it as possible, but not to miss the personal experience of seeing something so rare and so ethereal.
Yeah, it's a major moment. Everybody who goes through it feels that personal touch. And David Dvorkin, you felt it several times.
Oh, yeah.
Even I can see just sitting next to me, you're feeling it right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even when I did go to an eclipse, an annular eclipse, was when the moon is a little too far away, so its apparent diameter is smaller than the sun, and so you get a ring, a complete ring. And we went down to Richmond, Virginia, because there was supposed to be one at the Berkeley Plantation south of there. And we sat out at the Berkeley Plantation, and it was cloudy completely, but it still darkened, and we got that darkening. We walked away from there, though. I had the best fried chicken I'd ever had.
After you saw what was the name of that?
Annular.
An annular
Yeah,
eclipse.
I used to think when I was a kid it was an annual eclipse. Why doesn't it happen every year? But no, it's annular.
We've waited 99 years for this total eclipse to move all across the United States, from Oregon through the Midwest down to South Carolina. Do we know when the next time this will occur, when we will see this kind of total eclipse move across the United States?
Absolutely, and it'll be 2024. And
that's pretty close. That's not that far away.
It's really very close. And in fact, Carbondale, Illinois is going to see it again. Because its totality in both of the paths. The next one is going to go from the southwest to the northeast, starting in Texas, ending in Maine, and it's going to be just as spectacular. In fact, even a little longer. Because
when you say longer, what does that mean?
Well, that means that the moon is a little closer to the Earth at that time.
So instead of 2.5 minutes, it might be 3 minutes?
That's right.
Well, that could make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tell us why.
Well, the more time you have to watch this eclipse using your scientific instruments, of course, the more data you can collect. And also the sun is such a dynamic engine that it's changing every 1/10 of a second, and looking at those processes in detail during those short periods of time can be extremely valuable. For the rest of us, just every second of this experience is indelible.
And people are already gearing up for that next Eclipse 2024?
Oh, I know some of my colleagues are already talking about where are they going to start, in Texas or Maine.
Well, that's it for me. I'm going to end our coverage, at least for now, but we're not going to leave our coverage. Anderson Cooper is sticking around. I will leave Anderson with this challenge. Anderson, you can see my solar eclipse lenses right here. I want to see what they look like on you as well. Anderson Cooper picks up our special eclipse coverage right now.